Hello plant people, it's Nora the Leca Queen here. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another Q&A session. Apologies for not getting this to you when I should have, but I am back now and we're going to jump straight into it. Mookie Cookie would like to know what's on my wish list for the second half of the year. And Mookie Cookie also says that they enjoy my work. Thank you very much. It just makes it so worthwhile when people say such lovely things. What is on my wish list? Oh my gosh, that is such a difficult question. I think the very first thing that I would love is to have a studio, a recording room. That's really the thing that I want the most right now, because making YouTube videos is quite a thing for me, because as you can see, I'm sitting in my kitchen right now. So every time I have to make a video, I have to drag my lights out, I have to set up the space, I bring in all the plants that are gonna be sitting around, and it's just, and no one of course can use the kitchen when I'm doing this. So it has to be done at certain times. It's just so involving, and then I put everything back. And then when I'm looking for something, I can't quite find it. I've actually lost one of the batteries of my camera because God knows where that's gone. I don't know where it is. So it would be nice to have my own personal space where no one else goes there but me, and it's set up for recording. That is definitely what I want the most. I could also throw in there plants. I love plants, obviously, so plants would definitely be on my wish list. But you know, I don't really have a wish list. I fall in and out of love with different kinds of plants all the time. And if I decide I want something, if I can find it, if I can afford it, I will go and get it. I don't need a list. Next, Bob Bruce would like to know, when it's summer, do I put any of my plants in Leca outside? No, I definitely do not do that, because summer in Melbourne is a scorcher. Most of the times it gets to about 40 degrees. It can get to about 40 degrees outside. I am certainly not putting my plants outside, because that nutrient solution would probably get up to 50 or 60 degrees. It would be pretty hot, but also the plants would fry. So at no point do I actually put them outside. The only time I put my plants outside is when I'm watering the moss pole, for example, or just cleaning the plant out. Or when it's not summer, maybe like a light spring with a light little breeze, and I just want them to be outside and, you know, get to enjoy what they're missing. But otherwise, I generally don't have my plants living outside. Next, Loogie Mistress would like to know, how do you keep your plants warm in winter? It is really challenging to keep my plants warm in winter because I don't have a special plant room or something like that. I've got my plants dotted all around my house. And if you haven't seen the video where I show you how I place all my plants in my house, just click on the link above and that'll take you straight to it. Generally, what I do is I just keep the house warm. And that's not really because of the plants, it's because the humans that live in the home are pretty cold. My family and I feel the cold a lot. You know, we are from tropical climes. So we like to have it nice and warm in the house. So I'll have the heating up because we're cold, and invariably the plants get warm as well. So my house generally never goes below 18 degrees unless it's overnight, and we tend to have the heating off then, but otherwise it will be warm in the house. There's always someone home during the day, so invariably it is warm, which means our heating bill is quite high, but it is what it is. What can you do? My plants that live in the grow tent are a bit more contained and do obviously have a slightly higher temperature, but I don't have a heater in there at all. I just, you know, everyone just lives the way we live. It would be nice to keep them a bit warmer, but you know, what can I do? Natalie, I know Natalie is a fellow Aussie. Hi, Natalie. Natalie wants to know if I grow any of my plants in normal room conditions. So no humidifier, no grow lights, you know, no embellishments. Yes, I do. Actually, I do. My Hoyas are actually living in a space in my house without any additional lighting, and there's no humidifier there. So they are just having proper, normal home conditions. And if you haven't seen how I house my Hoyas, just click on the link above and that'll take you to a video where I show exactly where my Hoyas sit, and you will see there's no grow light inside, there's no humidifier inside. I do have other plants that probably just have like a humidifier only but no grow lights, or grow lights but no humidifier. It's really because of the nature of my home, and there's just certain things I can do in certain spaces. So for example, plants that are living very close to a rug, I won't want to have the humidifier on, because I've learned that if I do that, the humidity is going to be very high on my rug and I'll risk growing mold. So it's really trying to strike that balance of having a home that works as a home for my family and a place for my plants and having them grow well. So it is difficult. A plant room is ideal. I would love a plant room, and a grow tent is also excellent because you can then have your grow light, you can control the humidity, you can control the temperature, and your plants will thrive. But most of my plants at the moment are just living in normal home conditions. The next question comes from Luzette, and Luzette would like to know if I've got any succulents in Leca. She's got succulents living in Leca and Pond, and she says that the leaves are drying out. I don't have any succulents living in Leca. The only ones I've got that are even close, that remotely close to that, are my ZZ plants, and that's only because I've just never been into those plants, and that's the only reason. I might go down that route at some point, but not just yet. The next question is from Donetta Daniels. Donetta would like to know how I decide when a plant is ready to go on a moss pole. I've got my golden ivy pothos here. It's my little epipremnum golden ivy. This particular plant is quite small, and I put it on a moss pole when it was really, really tiny. As you can see, it is now growing really well. I'll try and pull that out so you can take a better look. So that's the plant there. And when I put it on a moss pole, this bit wasn't there. So this part of the plant has actually grown onto the moss pole and is already starting to attach to the moss pole. So as the plant is growing, it will continue to attach to the moss pole and those leaves will get bigger. As soon as you get your plant, put it up on a moss pole if that's what you're intending to do. There's no point in waiting for it to get a little bit bigger, then you put it on a moss pole. Just do it straight away so that plant can actually start to take advantage of the moss pole. Another reason why I do it early is there's no point in getting a plant, having it grow, and then taking it out of the pot to put it on the moss pole. So you're having to interrupt the plant twice. Just do it all in one go. Get the plant, put it up on a moss pole, and away it goes, and you're done. So that is how I decide. As soon as I get a plant, it goes straight onto a moss pole. Next question is from Apolika. Hello, Apolika. And Apolika would like to know if there's a way of jump-starting rooting when a plant is being put through the long method of transition from soil to leca. And if you're not sure what I mean when I say long method, just click on the link above and that'll take you to a video that explains how you can move your plant from soil to leca using the long method. So when I'm putting my plants in the long method, I don't do anything to jumpstart the process, as you say. The only thing that I do is put the plant in my special sauce. And of course, my special sauce containing Clonex clone solution. And this helps with the rooting. The special sauce also contains a root zone, which facilitates root health. So you're really helping those roots to get going and grow well. Now, if you're using a cutting and not a plant that's already got roots, what you can do is use a rooting hormone or a rooting gel. I use this, and this is Clonex. It's a growth technology product, but you don't necessarily have to use this. You can find all sorts of rooting gels and rooting hormones from any gardening store, hydroponic store, online, anywhere. So you put a little bit of that on your cutting, and you put that cutting in your special sauce, whether you're using a special sauce, whether you're just using water, your rooting hormone will help to actually get your cutting, have those roots going. Another thing that really helps with getting plants going is you have to put them in a warm environment. So if you've got a heating mat, that is where it's going to shine. So you get your plant, your cutting, put it on the heating mat, and those roots are nice and warm and they're growing. Humidity is also really good. So if you can up that humidity, and you can use things like a dome, so you can use a cloaca, just cover up the plant, put it in a propagating tub. Lots of people just use big storage tubs, translucent. Put your plant in there. It's got more humidity, it's got some heat, and it's more likely to root. But at the end of the day, a plant will take as long as it takes to root. Some plants, like the ZZ plant, will just go on for months before you can actually see a root coming through. So if you're doing the right thing, you've given the plant, you've used the rooting hormone, you've used your CCS, you're changing that solution regularly, it's warm, it's humid, and the plant's not dead, then that's fine. Let the plant do its thing and it will root when it wants to. I hope that is helpful, Apalika. Next question is from Bob, and Bob would like to know if I've got any ferns in Leca. That is a very interesting question, Bob, because me and ferns in Leca has been a really interesting journey. I do happen to have some ferns living in Leca, actually. This right here is my little blue star fern, and this fern is living in Leca. I put this fern in Leca a few weeks ago, and it's part of a little experiment I'm conducting. And I'm conducting this experiment where I'm trying to figure out what the best way of converting a fern from soil to Leca is. Do I use the long method, or do I put the plant straight into Leca? So this is a plant that I put straight into Leca, so that seems to be working. Yes, if you haven't seen the video where I talk about this experiment, just click on the link above and that'll take you straight through to it. So yeah, this blue star fern is doing okay so far, living in that reservoir, and it seems to be okay. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I will show you what the plants that are going through the long method are doing when I do my second part of my experiment, and I show that to you. I've got Larch de Jessica wants to know why I prefer Leca. We could be here all day. But I prefer Leca because it's easier for me to control how I take care of my plants. I don't get as many pests as I did back when I was using soil. And I think my plants really like it because they get a consistent supply of nutrition, they get a consistent supply of water. But click on the link above and that'll take you to a video where I discuss what Leca is, why it's good to use Leca for growing your plants. And I hope you enjoyed that one. And if there are any questions, just hit me in the comments below and I'll go through those with you. Next is from Floretta. And Floretta has a large fiddle leaf plant and is getting brown spots on the other leaves. Now, I'm not sure in what medium your fiddle leaf fig plant is. I'm going to hazard a guess and think that it's living in soil. Now, when I had my fiddle leaf figs living in soil, and I actually did kill one, and I used to get a lot of browning at the top. And usually this is really because of inconsistent watering. So you're overwatering, you're underwatering, and you're not providing adequate amount of light. This is what I found was the problem with my fiddles. And the minute I moved them from soil to Leca, those issues were completely gone. So I put them in a nice bright spot and I changed them over from soil to Leca, and I didn't get those problems anymore. So like I said, it's really an issue of how you're watering your fiddle leaf fig and the amount of light that you're providing. Danetta would like to know why I have some moss poles with plastic sheet backing and why I have some moss poles without the plastic sheet backing. Yeah, so this is my pothos that you've seen before, and it does not have a plastic sheet backing. That is completely bare. And I've got here my philodendron Brazil, and that has plastic sheet backing, and that looks absolutely brilliant. I also have here my pothos mandula. This pothos mandula does not have a plastic sheet backing. Now, what is different about these plants and why did I decide to do this? No difference whatsoever. The reason why I like to put plastic sheet backing on my moss poles is that the moss pole is able to stay moist for a lot longer than a moss pole that doesn't have plastic sheet backing. And the plastic sheet backing also helps direct the roots down, and they're not sort of growing in every which way direction. But making a moss pole that has a plastic sheet backing, check on the link above to show you how I do that. It takes a lot longer to do. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to source the plastic sheet backing. So when I'm in a bit of a hurry and I just want to pot something up quickly, I am more likely to make a moss pole that doesn't have a plastic sheet backing than one that does. But I really also love the way the plastic sheet backing moss pole looks. I think it looks a lot neater. It looks a lot more professional. So when I've got a really, really special plant and I want it to look absolutely fab, I will make the effort to make a moss pole that's got a plastic sheet back. But generally, it's neither here nor there. It's really just a preference, and it doesn't influence how the plant will grow at all in the long run. Jody would like to know what the ratios for my special sauce are. We'll talk a little bit about my special sauce. So my special sauce is made up of Growth Technology Clonix Clone Solution, which is a solution that aids cuttings in rooting. So it feeds the cutting as it's rooting, and I use Root Zone. This is Root Zone, which is an organic product that takes care of root health. Clonix Clone Solution dilution rate is 5 mils of Clonix Clone Solution to 1 liter of water. So I'll get a liter of water and I'll put 5 mils of this in that liter of water. Root Zone dilution is 1 mil per liter of water. So I will get the solution that I made earlier with CCS, that 1 liter, and I'll put 1 liter of this into that. So in that liter of water, you've got 5 mils of Clonix Clone Solution and 1 mil of Root Zone. Mix that up and you have your special sauce. And that's the sauce that I use when I am transferring a plant from soil to leca using the long method. It is also the sauce that I use when I am propagating cuttings. That is my special sauce. Any questions? Please let me know in the comments below. Dolly would like a list of plants that are easy to start up in leca. Pothos. Pothos is always a good way. Pothos are an easy plant, whether you're growing in soil, whether you're growing in leca. They are so easy. They will take to anything. Philodendrons are also pretty easy. They will grow like crazy. Spider plants are a great grower in leca. Monsteras are also really good. They will grow absolutely fabulously. Grab a small Monstera deliciosa, whack it in leca and watch it grow. The roots are just absolutely phenomenal. Pothos, spider plants, philodendrons, Monstera, you cannot go wrong. Put Hoyas on that list as well. Hoyas do really well in leca. They do not give you any trouble at all. Lee would like to know where I get my heat lamp and sticks. I'm not sure what you mean by sticks. I think you mean the lights, the grow lights that I've got, the extendable grow lights. I just get those online, and my heat mat, I'll have a link below showing you what kind of heat mat I use. Again, that's just Amazon or any hydroponics shop, really any gardening shop. big retailers would have heating mats available. Very useful for when you're propagating using the long method as well. Lee would also like to know, how soon is too soon for transferring from soil to leca? I have successfully transferred 4 baby black velvets and turned them to mush. How soon is too soon? I would say there is no such thing as too soon. The second I get a plant that's living in soil in my house, I will immediately transfer it to leca. So it will either go directly into leca or I will go through the long method. Now, you said that you turned your black velvets into mush. Alocasias are a little bit of a special breed. I would like to know exactly how you did it, because they can be quite temperamental and it's very easy for an alocasia to go down the pathway of root rot. Maybe just use a very, very shallow reservoir, like one you would use for a ZZ plant. Just check out my video where I transition my ZZ plant from soil to leca. I used a very shallow reservoir, and in that way it did not go through root rot and you're more likely to be successful. Try that. I hope it works out. Let me know how you go. Danetta would like to know, how do you decide when to put a plant on a moss pole instead of a trellis? Any plant that has aerial roots, in my mind, belongs on a moss pole. Because in nature, if it's got aerial roots, those roots are going to be attaching to a surface and that plant is going to be climbing or crawling or going somewhere or doing something. It needs something to latch onto. So I provide my plants that are climbers with a moss pole so they can climb. So the area roots have something to attach to. But sometimes I'll just let them trail. So if you look at this plant here, this is my heartleaf philodendron. It is trailing and it's so desperately crying to latch onto something. But and you can see the area roots there are just really wanting to grow, but they've got nothing to latch onto, and they just look so sad. That's what it is. I don't want to put it up somewhere, so unfortunately for it, it just has to languish, trailing. I've got here a begonia, and this begonia is on a trellis. You could put this on a pole. It can root, but as you can see, it doesn't have any very obvious aerial roots. It's happy to live on this trellis, so I will keep this plant on a trellis and I wouldn't bother putting it on a moss pole at all because it's quite comfortable living there. So if it doesn't have area roots that are dying to climb onto anything, I wouldn't bother to do it. How often do you check your roots for decay? Can plants that like to dry out or are notorious for root rot thrive in leca, or should there be a drying period? I've got my ZZ plants here to help me. ZZ plants are quite notorious for root rot, and not too many people have ZZ plants living in leca. So how often do I check for decay? I check my plants every time I'm refilling the reservoir. So it's not a hard job. All you do is just pick it up and look, see what's going on. And because I've got these clear pots, it's very easy to see what the roots are doing. It's very easy to see the root health and figure out how things are going. So you can look at, you can see there, you can see that root there. It's nice and healthy. This plant is doing okay. But the other clue, you would get a clue from the leaves. The plant will tell you that there's something not quite right going on. So from the foliage at the top, you could sort of get a sense that there's something weird, and you'll take a look at the roots. But you know, every time you're filling up the reservoir, pick that up, take a look, plonk it back down, and off you go. Very, very easy. I've got this one here, same thing. Living in a clear pot, pick it up, take a look. All's looking well, foliage is looking well. That's it. Roots check done. And you fill up your reservoir and off you go. Generally, I don't like my plants to dry out. I don't let them dry out as practice. I will sort of keep the reservoir filled to a certain level. So even plants that like to be a bit on the drier side, like the ZZ plants, do have a certain amount of nutrition going, and I generally don't like to stress the plant, because if you have your reservoir dry for a long period of time, that leca is going to dry out, and it does take a bit of a while for the leca to actually reabsorb that nutrient and become moist again. So just don't get into the habit of letting your reservoirs dry out. So that's it. That's all the questions that I had this week. I'll put up the posts for the next lot of questions, and I will see you again in a fortnight. Thank you so much for all the questions, and thank you for bearing with me. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.